Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen, welcome back to Sunday morning in the Old Cookbook Show. Today we're going to do another recipe out of this cookbook, published in 1910, the Picayune Creole Cookbook. And this was published by a newspaper in New Orleans called the Daily Picayune. And it is a deep dive into Creole cooking from 1900, early 1900s, but also to a time period much earlier. And in the introduction, they spend a lot of time talking about how they feel that the Creole culture is disappearing. And they want to use this cookbook to sort of preserve recipes that are already forgotten so that people in the future can remember them. And so by 1910, Creole culture was already starting to be absorbed into the greater American culture and was changing. And this book tried to sort of hold that back a little bit. And what I find really interesting about this book and why I keep coming back to it is that I see a lot of parallels in this cookbook with some Quebecois, Canadian Quebecois cookbooks, in that you can trace some of these recipes back to much earlier works from France. And this cookbook was written in France in the early 1700s. My copy is from 1759, and it is a compendium of French cooking. And you can sort of see how these recipes come down from France to this region and are changed based on what was available to people in southern Louisiana. So today the recipe we're going to do is called poulet à la reine. And I'm going to cut the recipe down a little bit. I'm only going to do one chicken. The recipe calls for 2 chickens. And the recipe calls for 2 chickens that are a year old. So I would imagine they're chickens that have been running around in your yard laying eggs. And it's time to dispatch them and put them into a pot. Chicken today that we would get from the grocery store wouldn't need to be as cooked as long as the chicken in this book. So I'm going to have to adjust the cooking time a little bit as well. So into the bottom of this pot, I put some bacon. Now I have some sliced onions and carrots, and I'm going to layer that on top of the bacon. And then carrots over top. And then a little bit more bacon on top of that. Now I've got a little bowl of salt and pepper, and I'm just going to mix that together, and then we coat this chicken inside and out with the salt and pepper. Now the chicken goes into the pot, and I'm going to put the rest of that salt and pepper that's on the plate in. Put the lid on. Now it says to put this into a hot oven for 20 minutes. And I think I might stick to that 20 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes have gone by. Now I take the chicken back out of the oven. And on the stovetop, I've got a pot of chicken stock that has just come up to the boil. Now I'm supposed to pour this in with the chicken. And add a bouquet of sweet herbs. So I've got some thyme, I've got some sweet parsley, I've got a little bit of rosemary. Pretty much, I guess, use what you have, because you would have just used whatever was growing by the kitchen door. So I'm going to put the lid back on this, and it goes back in the oven for 2 hours, is what the recipe says. I'm going to say hour and a half is sort of where I want to bring this out. So about halfway through, in 45 minutes, I'm going to take it out, turn the chicken over, and then stick it back in. I'm going to say this chicken is done, so we're going to pull it out. And I'm going to move the chicken out onto this platter, and I'm going to reduce the sauce that's in this pot down to a gravy. And yes, this chicken is falling apart done. Now, I put this on the stovetop and boiled it for a few minutes just to reduce that sauce down to something that's thick and rich and wonderful. And we'll just strain out the solids. Hey, Jules.
Hey, Glenn, you look like you're almost done there.
I
Hey,
am
friends.
almost done. The chicken is pretty much ready. So this is a pretty standard late 1800s, early 1900s braised chicken, which doesn't work really well with a supermarket chicken from today because our birds today aren't old enough, they're not tough enough, and so it just falls apart.
But that may not necessarily be a bad thing.
It's not a bad
Looks
thing.
like there's a lot of vegetables in there. And bacon.
I don't know what to do. I am not going to throw that bacon out. I'm going to figure out what to do with that bacon.
Okay.
But I think the chicken should be amazing. And I tasted a couple of bits along the way.
Did you? I'm just going to pull his leg back to give it a taste.
I think the chicken will be amazing. And there's this
I don't
sauce.
know what that's for.
Yeah. Do you want to try some sauce?
Yeah, I'm into sauce.
So I'll just pour a little sauce over top.
Woo.
Look how thick that is. Okay, so let's try a little piece.
We'll fight over that one. That's got a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun because I don't think I've had a flavor of chicken like that before. So that makes it
Well, and
super
there's,
fun.
and so it's bacon, onion, carrot, and chicken stock. And so there's really not much there, but it has really built an incredible flavor.
I
hasn't it?
love it when things that aren't that complicated
Come together
just
into something
come together
amazing.
into something that's really special.
Yeah, and so remember that coq au vin that we had just a little while ago?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't too far from that recipe in that instead of chicken stock, it uses wine.
Ah, yes.
And so you get that braised chicken. You're not going to get crispy skin.
No, this style does not.
It's not going to be beautiful presentation. This is not white tablecloth. This is amazing, tasty eating.
There you go.
Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.